Well, thanks very much, Jane. I was tempted to say you might have recognized Jane's accent is from Australia. We're going to be crossing swords on Thursday. Hopefully the better side will win. England, go for England. But it's indeed, it's a huge pleasure for me to be here and to have the pleasure of your company just for some 20 minutes on this, the opening day of the London Fintech Week. But before addressing my subject, I just wanted to also add my congratulations and words of thanks to Jane. Dr. Jane Thomason has been inspirational in what she's done, not just in blockchain, but really trying to move the dial when it comes to digital inclusion around the world. She mentioned in her introductory comments about the Commonwealth. Of course, the Commonwealth is going to play a hugely important role in this country going forward, if and when we ever resolve the bloody Brexit nightmare. I promise not to mention Brexit, but I should, by way of introduction, talk a little bit further about why I'm actually here. I spent 20 years working in the city, Merrill Lynch, Smith Newcourt, NatWest, and then I spent another 20 years getting involved in the tech sector. I was initially involved in building data centers here in London and built up the second largest data center business across Europe, and more recently have been investing and managing several health tech and fintech businesses while serving on the advisory board of Silicon Valley Bank. But why do I stand here as Lord St. John? I have to say there are two types of peers in the House of Lords, those who deserve to be there and those who do not deserve to be there. And I have to plead the Fifth Amendment. I do not deserve to be there. I got there by fluke of sperm 41 years ago. I never had any idea that I'd carry on in the House of Lords. But as Jane mentioned, my expertise is in Africa. I spent over 30 years living in Africa, and obviously it's something I'd like to talk about now. But also having been involved in financial services, particularly now, we need to put a lot more focus in government of how important fintech is. And therefore, when Tony Blair decided to abolish hereditary peers in 1998, I was one of the lucky ones that was elected. But as Jane mentioned, I was fortunate last year to be a member of the House of Lords ad hoc committee on artificial intelligence and machine learning. And we did a deep dive into the benefits and the potential threats of AI, which of course has had such an incredible impact. It's really only the last 10 years that we've seen the AI dividend coming through in fintech, in prop tech, in insurtech, in medtech. The list goes on and on and on. But whilst my subject today is on why is London the future of fintech, I wanted to talk in more generic sense about fintech itself and why the UK has got this unique position despite the threat of Brexit. Now, I was asked last night, actually I was somewhat worried about if I'd get my speech done in time because I was on that wretched flight from Nice to London, got in last night at 12:15, and on the flight, the passenger sitting next to me said, "How do you define fintech?" Actually, in fact, I was quite taken aback, and my simple answer was, fintech is the global movement of innovation in financial services, harnessing the power of finance and technology to enable people and businesses to thrive. And that, I think, goes right down to the whole essence of what Jane is trying to achieve in terms of digital inclusion and the huge challenge the world faces today for those who don't have bank accounts. I went on to add that my forecast is that in the next 20 years, all financial services will be fintech. And the digital revolution has provided technology solutions to old age, and just as important, not just old age, but brand new problems from efficiency, from reliability, transparency, and usability. I haven't had the benefit of looking at all the delegates here today, but I'd imagine that many of you are at the cutting edge of the tech startups, those who are investing in tech, and those who are the beneficiaries of this incredible digital revolution. I was shocked recently to find out that there are over 1.3 million unbanked working adults in the UK. Another statistic, which I'm sure you know about, is that 16 million people in the United Kingdom have less than £100 in their savings account. 10% of households are still without access to the internet, and 30% of people over 65 have never used a computer. That's why Martha Lane Fox is in the House of Lords. She's been leading the move to get everyone digitally included. But fintech holds the key not just to tackle financial inclusion, but also the many other challenges facing the developing world around the world. And here again, I refer to what impact fintech will have on many of the main members of the Commonwealth, such as India. Every company working in fintech, from early stage startups to large corporates, has a part to play improving the way our financial system operates. And fintech is the sector which places entrepreneurship at its heart. Startups, particularly here in London, are the lifeblood of the sector and are driving the digital economy forward. Whether it is banking the unbanked, highlighting affordable credit solutions, providing SME loans, these are meaningful and purposeful aspects of delivering the future that we all so richly deserve. I'm talking generally about fintech because I think it cannot be classified into one cluster. It's certainly helping to solve some of the most challenging problems facing consumers, and just as importantly, businesses, both large and small. But we have to push ourselves further. And I think one of the reasons why London has been so successful is that we have a joined-up system. We have government, we have Innovate Finance, we have the young startups, we have this culture where the Googles of this world, the DeepMinds and others, are all joined with a common vision of what this economy can achieve if we all have joined-up thinking. By 2020, millennials are forecast to make up 35% of the global workforce. I wish I was still a millennial. I think I'm called a baby boomer, 62, baby boomer, I think is what I'm called. But basically, particularly here in London, I think we have to have a rethink on how we work and where we work. And I say this because I do think we need to look at flexible working hours, work-life balance, diverse work balances, how we dress. You know, I'm still one of those conventional investment bankers that always wears a tie and a jacket. The techies nowadays in the fintech sector, very few of them even know what a tie is. But I do think it's important to get this cultural mix right. And this is the only way that we can continue to attract great talent and grown customer pipelines. And it's the talent issue which I believe is the opportunity, but also the threat. It's certainly a fascinating time in London with a continually shifting banking battlefield. I say the battlefield because when you look at the major banks, the HSBC, the Barclays, the Santanders, the NatWests and others, initially when fintech came on the scene, there was a sense of suspicion. And then that gradually moved into acceptance and now increasingly adoption. And they are far ahead, I believe. I believe the major banks in the UK are far ahead of many of their competitors elsewhere in the world in embracing this amazing move in fintech. So why, ladies and gentlemen, am I convinced that London is likely to remain the global fintech capital despite the uncertainties of Brexit? And why is it that Deloitte rates London #1 for fintech. London has, as Jane mentioned before, the world's highest concentration of fintech companies and talent. In fact, there's 64,000 financial and professional services firms here. There are now more than 1,600 fintech firms in the UK, with estimates suggesting that that number will double by 2030. And the UK's fintech adoption rate is 42%, which compares to 33% in other parts of the world. So we have a vibrant startup environment with the opportunity of ease of scalability. We have tech investors having a healthy appetite for risk. We have government incentives with enterprise investment schemes and SEISs. But last year, the statistic which I found was most important was that the UK had its best year ever in terms of fintech investment, over 3.3 billion alone. 5 minutes I've given up, or 5 minutes I've got still? Oh, my God. Sorry, I'm going to have to gallop through. This puts the UK third behind China and the US, and a dominating force in Europe. In 2017, London was ranked first amongst the 10 European cities in total capital invested. That's double the combined amount invested in fintech in Germany and France. By the way, I haven't got 5, I've got 10. So I'm going to borrow 5, excuse me. But I don't want to bore you with statistics. In brief, the UK, and particularly the fintech ecosystem, has all the key elements of a world-leading environment where fintech can thrive with startups, with entrepreneurs, and technology abundance in all there. But one of the issues which I haven't mentioned, which I do think is very important, is that we have in this country one of the most progressive regulatory frameworks, which enables challenger banks, remittance providers, and fintech pioneers to lay their foundations and rapidly scale up. And moving forward, it's important that this regulatory environment, including the FCA sandbox, remains protected and open to innovation. Now, I don't have time to talk about the sandbox, but the sandbox has been used to identify gaps in policy and highlight unnecessary barriers to entry and innovation. And one such example, of course, is distributed ledger technology and crypto assets. In London's favorable regulatory environment, we've seen many unicorns which have been founded here. Of course, we have Revolut, Monzo, Asimo, Monies, Iwoka, GoCardless, and others. But smart and open regulation is what ultimately gives us the edge over competitors in Europe and across the world. And I was pleased to see that the Chancellor and the Bank of England recently further committed their policies to encourage responsible innovation. But I want to just, in my allotted remaining minutes, you know what they say, parley, to talk, and Russians say duma, that means to think. We talk too much, Russians think too much. But the UK's traditional strength is basically in skilled labor. And the big question is, how can London and the rest of the UK retain such diversity of skills? Whilst there's a lot to be positive about the UK fintech ecosystem, the future of Brexit will invariably pose a potential threat to open borders. I'm a fan of Boris Johnson, by the way, so I think he's the one man who can potentially take us out of the mire. But immigration policy questions will continue to loom large in light of the Brexit uncertainty. And it's therefore all the more important that we grow a talent pipeline with a greater range of diverse talent at home. The financial services sector, and fintech in particular, has been struggling with diversity. 1 minute. At present, only 17% of senior executives in the UK are female. We need policies to drive recruitment of diverse talent, both to tackle the gender imbalance and tap into the workforce and other skills background. To address talent shortage in the technology sector, the government launched Fintech for Schools program and I could speak for hours about this because I do believe that the schools is where we need to be attracting children. We need to change the syllabus to get children more focused on what they need to learn in order to get into this sector. But also important, it's important that the government appreciates to be more flexible when it comes to visas for foreigners coming into this country. There were only 1,000 exceptional talent visas up until last year. It's now 2,000. The government needs to get real. They need to give that more likely 10, 20,000 more. So I'll try and bring my 1 minute to an end. We in government have been looking to grow this sector locally and internationally. We've created fintech steering boards. We have 5 fintech agreements with fintech hubs in Singapore, South Korea, China, Hong Kong, Australia. We, of course, also have the UK-Africa Fintech Partnership, but collaboration is key. And so whilst London continues to be the dominant center for fintech, 2/3 of employment in the financial and professional services sector is outside of London. That's in Manchester, in Edinburgh, in Newcastle, in Leeds, and Bristol, and many other cities. So Innovate UK has tried to promote that diversity. It's not just London. It's all about collaboration. So ladies and gentlemen, my time is up. We're entering a hyper-connected era where technologies can create an entire new ecosystem. Traditionally, banking has been seen as a battlefield and a fight for customers, but the new market of the Revoluts, the Monzos and others, Nutmeg, Exo, and also Echo, of course, I see Jim, you're here today, are moving the barriers. Traditional banks' business lines from international FX transfers through to savings and investment is changing, and large financial institutions, the banks, should be wary of using their strong market foothold to dismiss the challenge of those entrants. So here we are. What I'm saying is, right now, it's not about competition, it's about collaboration. I'm sorry I've overrun my mark. I thought I had much more time, but it's been a great pleasure to open today. Enjoy yourselves, and I hope to meet many of you in the next 2 days. Thank you.